everyone, I'm Ritu Gupta, founding CEO of Cirkled In. This is next in our podcast series talking about effect of coronavirus on higher education, mainly admissions and recruitment. And we have had amazing guests on this podcast where they have shared their insights from all walks of higher ed industry, from private to public, from small to big colleges. And today we have Bryan Ryberg with us, who's Associate Dean of Student Success and Enrollment at Roanoke College in Salem, Virginia. He has been with the college for over a dozen years and has held different roles, different organizations, and has been an amazing contributing member for that college. So we are really excited to have you, Bryan. Thank you so much for coming on and giving your time.
Thank you for having me today. I'm looking forward to speaking with you about all the issues going on in recruitment and retention and higher education today.
Yeah, absolutely. So like we all know, it's not a new statement anymore that coronavirus has totally upended our education system, not just K-12, but even higher education. From virtual spring quarter to now potentially virtual fall quarter, you guys are dealing with a lot. Every day, every week, things are changing, new challenges, new issues. We understand that right now focus is on fall 2020 class, not only from the virtual and in-person class issue, but also how many students will actually join the campus and pay you the tuition. There are many questions and many unknowns at this point on the table. And normally by now for fall 2021, you would have started the recruitment. This is not a typical year by any measure. When we are talking to different universities, answer varies from one to another. So we want to look forward past fall 2020 with a little bit of maybe flavor of 2020 and try to understand how this pandemic has impacted and will impact fall 2021 class. So it's literally taking that flight to 30,000 foot level and getting that bird's eye view. So with that, let's get started. Of course, we'll start with very initial one. What specific area do you think colleges and universities in general in higher ed were least prepared in tackling this COVID impact?
Yeah, I think there were many areas that many colleges were unprepared for in terms of responding to a global pandemic. This was not something that any of us expected or in any of our sort of plans that we were planning for. I really do think that delivering a quality remote education was difficult, especially for those types of schools that are really used to delivering a very traditional education in the classroom, in person. And at Roanoke College, one of the things that we talk about are those personal relationships you'll have with your professors, staff members, and your fellow students. And we've had to work hard to replicate those same experiences virtually. This has been a huge challenge for our faculty members, for our information technology department. And I really believe that institutions that communicate well, that were prepared for the technical side of delivering an education, and also having faculty members that might have some experience in their PhD programs and graduate programs, delivering online education has really helped some schools move forward. But certainly there's aspects of every institution, whether it's student affairs and programming for students in terms of keeping them engaged with co-curricular activities has been a challenge. Recruitment and retention, especially for a small liberal arts school that we really enjoy having our guests on campus and seeing what we have to offer and meeting with the faculty member and taking a tour with a student tour guide. Those are things that we've had to really pivot and respond to the challenges at hand. And I think many schools that I've seen have done a tremendous job making this change. And I think other schools have really struggled with that innovation and being able to respond to something in a very short period of time. Colleges are great at making plans for a 10-year strategic plan. And that's what we all do very well. So responding to something day by day and minute by minute has been a challenge. And I think some schools will come through this very well because of their response.
Yeah, very well said, Bryan. And that is one thing we hear from everyone we talk to. It's the transition to digital, transition to online technology, innovation. That just, I think COVID has forced the whole higher ed industry into 2021. Literally like today's technology, 21st century, if you will. So, and most colleges had to switch to online classes. When you look back to pre-COVID world and compare that to what we have today in terms of technology, did you really expect that higher ed industry will adapt like that? If COVID was not there, do you think that would have happened? Or how long it would have taken without COVID?
Absolutely not. I don't think, I think whether it's this pandemic, even some of the things you see happening in different cities across the United States and the world in terms of protests, there's a number of things that have forced higher education institutions to change and to respond to the world we're living in today. And I don't think any of our leaders would have expected these changes to happen this fast. I do think we were looking at that demographic cliff in the year 2025, where we could expect fewer students, at least in the United States, going to college in terms of just sheer numbers. And I think people were probably looking out 5 years from now in terms of what sort of changes would have to be made in 2025. But who would have thought that we would have a challenge in 2020 that will probably make 2025 look like a walk in the park.
Exactly. Yeah, so that's a good segue into my next question. How do you think this digital evolution and COVID in general is helping or hindering your recruitment and admissions efforts? Keep 2020 in mind, as well as looking forward. What have you gained? What have you lost?
Absolutely. To start off with the things that we've lost, we went 3, almost 4 months without having visitors on our campus. And that was something that we had to figure out how to replicate, or at least host experiences that might mirror what a student would get when they were on campus. So that's definitely been tough for smaller private liberal arts schools to overcome. I think what we've learned from this, over the past 4 months, Roanoke College, the admissions office alone, has held over 200 virtual webinars. We've held webinars for incoming students, for parents, for college guidance counselors. And so we have a number of constituencies that we need to make sure that we're keeping those relationships healthy and we're fostering those relationships. And so moving forward, I believe that our work will become more remote. We will continue to host webinars and to use digital technology to connect with parents, students, guidance counselors. And that's something that I think has really enhanced our recruitment efforts. I've noticed that on a number of these webinars, you'll see students sitting in from South America, from Brazil, from India, from Africa, from Europe. These were students that never had those opportunities to connect with Roanoke before. Even domestically, you look at students in California, Washington, Idaho, and this has enabled our office to connect with students who we probably would have not connected with before. And on the flip side of that, this really gives students the power now to connect with any college they want, nationally or internationally. And I think that's a great opportunity for students to explore different forms of higher education and different institutions, and will have experiences that they would have not otherwise had if this hadn't forced all these institutions to change the way they're recruiting. And I hear similar stories from my colleagues at other institutions. So with that being said, this will permanently change the way we recruit students. And I think that that will be a good thing moving forward.
Absolutely right on, Bryan. That's exactly what we are hearing, and that's exactly what we feel. Being an education and technology company, it's Yes, we have lost a big part of human touch, that on campus, that camaraderie that you get. But at the same time, you have expanded horizon to international students. You sitting in Salem, Virginia, can talk to a student in California and Washington because now they are online now because expectation is that. And for example, my own daughter, she's a senior, rising senior in high school, and she is attending virtual events of the colleges that were not even on her list. Just because she has 30 minutes, sure, why not? And she's learning about these colleges, which if we had to do college visits, it'll be limited to 5, 6. Virtual takes that constraint away. So I can see, even as a parent or as a student's angle, I think this is a huge win for higher ed industry to reach students where you could not before,
Yes.
and those students couldn't visit you, but
No.
now they can.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so what changes are you seeing related to your tools, your process, your strategy for the recruitment process, recruitment and outreach? Because now you have opened the horizon a lot. How are you planning to continue that effort and actually take these students from just attending a webinar to eventually coming into your classroom?
Sure. So we have to bring them along that journey and that discernment process virtually now. And when I meet with students or talk with them over the phone or through a Zoom call, I'll talk to them about the importance of really making sure that they are getting the best information possible in order to inform their college decision. Things that were traditional prior to COVID, things like overnight visits, those won't happen anymore. That was a great way for a student to come to Roanoke and to really get an authentic feel of what our community is all about, what it's like after classes are over. And students are really going to have to do their due diligence in order to make sure that they're getting all the information that they can. And the onus will be on different institutions to make sure they're delivering that information and to making sure that students are able to connect with faculty members and current students. I think that's going to be crucial. I think one thing that we're really thinking about right now is how we deal with students who have not been able to take a standardized test in their junior year. And especially for students that are looking to go early action or early decision, even if they take a test in September or October, those results won't be back in time for us to evaluate their file. So what we're looking at doing is developing a way to evaluate our applicants holistically outside of standardized tests. So we are going to increase the number of conversations we're having with our students, with recommendations from high school guidance counselors or teachers, making sure students are demonstrating interest in our institution. That's very important for us. We want to know that students are with us and are interested in Roanoke College. I've even heard from students that are indicating their AP scores might not be, their AP test scores might not be coming out when they typically would. We also are finding that students who participated in online education the second semester of their junior year, those grades might not reflect the kind of student they were the first 2.5 years of high school. So as an institution, we will have to look at our policies and procedures to make sure that we are still an accessible institution for the students who are interested in Roanoke College. So all of those things we're going to have to take into account this next year when we're evaluating our class of 2021.
Wow, you're so right on, Bryan. You have touched every single thing, and I can vouch for that even as a parent. Absolutely, their GPA of second quarter is not going to be an indicator. Their SAT is out the window. AP, same thing. Even if AP scores were out, AP test was so different this time compared to what they had been preparing for. It's literally online 45-minute test that does not tell you much about student. So I'm really happy and really excited to hear what you just said, like looking holistically, because that's where every college will have to go. So, and that is one thing that COVID has done in a positive manner is adoption of test optional strategy, right? Just because tests have been canceled and now it has forced, just like online education, COVID has forced colleges into that test optional admissions process as well. In fact, recently, I think as late as 2 weeks ago, we heard 53% four-year colleges have made SAT, ACT optional. I can say as a parent, that's music to my ears, you know. So what do you think is the future of these standardized tests? Do you think in 5 years, we will be looking at entirely different admissions process, or we will revert back to what it was, say, last year?
I'm not quite sure if there will be a space for standardized tests moving forward. I imagine that certain states and certain university systems may still require those, but even in the state of Virginia, prior to COVID, you saw some major public institutions really get away from requiring standardized tests. I really do believe that many of these tests benefit certain types of students over others, and I think research has told us that over time. And when you are looking at a student's transcripts, when you're looking at their extracurricular activities, when you're looking at recommendations, when you're speaking to them on the phone or over a FaceTime call, there are many different ways to evaluate a student's readiness for college. And I really do think oftentimes a great writing sample, you know, seeing the students taking an AP course, a dual enrollment course, some sort of IB curriculum, you know, those are all great indicators of the quality of student that you might be evaluating. So I would hope that in order for institutions to be more accessible to different populations of students, whether that's international students, students from different socioeconomic backgrounds, out-of-state students, in-state students, students that are eligible for Pell Grants, I do think that getting away from standardized test scores will be a benefit for so many students, and will spread out the wealth of opportunities throughout the United States that are there for everybody. So I hope it can even the playing field out a little bit for our kids coming up through secondary education.
I'm so glad to hear all that, Bryan. I'm getting goosebumps as I'm hearing you say all this, because this is exactly what this holistic review is supposed to will do. Because last year, Varsity Blues, even last week, there was a news that one more couple, they said, okay, yeah, we are guilty. Just one number they had to buy, and that's it. So that's how easy or vulnerable, I should say, college admission process was, even in this highly selective institution. So it's really nice to see hear what you are saying, because that's exactly what it will do. It will equalize the playing for every student, every socioeconomic, every physical, wherever they are, all of that. So I'm really excited to see that you don't see SAT, ACT as a part of future of college enrollment. So that's really good. In terms of the goals itself, because this whole thing is shifting, it's literally like tectonic plates. Like every day there's a little bit of new movement. And we have been talking about welcome to new normal, even though we don't know what that normal will look like in post-COVID world. From college recruitment and admissions perspective, how do you see your goals, your metrics, your numbers changing? There will be some change, definitely. How are you preparing or expecting that for 2020 as well as 2021 class?
Well, for so many colleges this year that will be down in enrollment, this won't only impact, especially for tuition-driven institutions, this class won't only impact 2020 and 2021. These classes stay with us for 4 years, and that will be a challenge. In terms of analyzing data, this will be a different year, and comparing the data that we've seen in weekly reports of inquiries and applicants and all of those things that admissions officers look at, historical data will be really a real challenge to analyze year to year right now. So I believe institutions will probably be a little less risk adverse. I think we're all going to have to try new things in terms of strategy, and I believe many institutions will have to figure out how to run more efficiently. That will be very important. as I think, over the last 10, 20 years, you've really seen an increase in administration and student affairs and other types of programs at these institutions that historically had been very academically focused. It was all about faculty members and advising, and even 50, 60 years ago, these faculty members might also live in the residence halls with the students and really kind of take care of them. And so we're really going to have to analyze what we need and what we don't need, because it's going to be a challenge financially for most institutions out there, as we can't always rely on those historical size classes as we've had moving forward. And I really do believe that between 2020 and 2025, with that demographic cliff, we're all really going to need to prepare for the realities of the challenges that we're going to face as institutions. And it's going to be a challenge, and I believe that the institutions that are focused on their mission and their vision of how they deliver an education, and that are innovative in terms of the curriculum they deliver, will be just fine moving forward. And so I really believe that this will make institutions become more innovative in the way they deliver an education in order to be competitive in the marketplace.
Wow, that's so good to hear, because I think what this will do, like you said, it's going to force organizations look at how to do more with less, be more process efficient, be more effective, and reduce the spend, because that is what it will come down to. Because there will be financial impact of COVID. Everybody knows that. For your college, or let's just say for higher ed industry, you are not only looking at decreased revenue, you are looking at increased demand for financial aid if you want to keep those students in your classroom, because a lot of unemployment was really, really high. And students are not expecting to have a side job when they're in the college, because probability of that has gone down. How are you managing this financial impact to your university and compensating that from somewhere, because you could have reduced in tuition revenue as well as increased demand for financial aid by students?
I think a school like Roanoke College, we are really going to have to take a look at alternative revenue streams. When you're a tuition-driven institution, and for Roanoke, we are only an undergraduate institution, so we don't have the luxury of receiving revenue from our graduate programs. So I think we're really going to have to look at what we can offer in terms of maybe graduate programs, online opportunities, even looking at our facilities and what we could do for our community in times when we don't have students on campus, and how we can utilize our residence halls and our cafeteria and all of those things to provide more revenue in order to supplement the education and the mission that we really believe in, which is that undergraduate experience. So we are going to have to figure out more ways to supplement that, so we can keep doing what we really do well, which is delivering a quality undergraduate education for our students living on campus. And I believe we will return to that at some point, just a matter of when. We do plan on opening this fall. In terms of the total landscape out there, you see institutions that are doing a lot of different things in what their plans are to open. But it's going to be really important for us to figure out those alternative revenue streams moving forward, so we can keep doing the things that we do so well.
Right. I think the business acumen of higher ed industry is going to go up after this. You have to survive, right?
Absolutely.
So, yeah. Looking forward, other than, of course, fall 2020 class is very much up in the air, and you mentioned you are planning on opening, and every college, every university is reacting differently to the situation, and they are making decisions that's right for their community, their state, with geographic and all of that stuff. When do you think in this new normal, what is the right time to ramp up for 2021 class? When will you shift your focus from opening in fall, got that under control, and then now let's talk about 2021?
Well, we've really had to focus on the class of 2021 months ago. That's something that students are really kind of stepping up their efforts in their college search process. So whereas students maybe would start their senior year 5-10 years ago, we're seeing more sophomores, juniors visit campus. And so they are doing a search their junior year. So by the time it's the fall of their senior year, they're ready to make a decision. A lot of students are looking to go early decision. So the time is now, but we also have to make sure that we're bringing in the class of 2020. And so we do have a team of admissions officers that are keeping an eye on the ball and making sure that anything new that's coming in or student concerns are being taken care of, and that we're making sure those students have an easy path coming to the campus next month. And then the rest of our team's working on the class of 2021 and trying to build that funnel so we have a thriving class coming next fall.
Perfect. Great. Wow. Bryan, it was so pleasant hearing everything you said. Any last minute thoughts or insights that you would like to share?
Yeah, I think for all of us working in higher education, the last 4 months have been extremely challenging. And just to everybody out there who's working in higher ed, who's working in the best interest of our students that we serve, I would just remind you to remember why we're all working in higher education. And for me, it's to serve those students and to help them find a path and a purpose in life. And when things get hard, it's really important to revert back to why you're doing what you're doing and trying to think of what your own personal mission is. And I think for me in particular, that's been helpful through some of these trying times. And so I would just say keep up the good work, and know there's a lot of students out there that are going to need your help and guidance moving forward. And you all do a great job of that. So keep it up.
Wow. Thank you, Bryan. And I can say thank you as a parent as well. Hearing you made me feel so much better because I can see your passion. I can see why you are doing what you are doing. So definitely our next generation is in really good hands with people like you, and they will be ready for the future. So COVID has only made us stronger.
I agree.
Thank you for your time, Bryan, and we look forward to talking to you some more, or maybe on future podcasts.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.